Welcome. This is Howard Sorkin, DePaul University, something's doing something here. DePaul University, the capstone course number 116 online. We are going to be recording Chapter 8 on long-term care insurance planning. Long-term care is a huge, huge area of concern for most people as they go into retirement. And it just doesn't affect people in retirement. It affects the people they love, the caregivers. It affects a lot of the baby boomers are caught in the middle between helping to care for their children, wanting to plan for their own retirement, their own financial security, and needing to help care for parents and the elderly. And be aware that care doesn't always mean you're spending the money. It takes a lot of time and energy and effort in order to do this. I will also tell you that I have been in the industry for many years, and more people are concerned about long-term care planning, using insurance companies and different hybrid policies. It is part of almost every financial plan that I do, and it's a financial planning tool that causes a lot of concern because there is no really great answer. Nobody wants to go to a nursing home. If you don't believe me, just go visit a couple, and no matter what happens, no matter how nice it is in the lobby, and it looks so pretty, and it looks okay when you're in the areas where they do rehab, get into the different floors and see what happens. When you get up to the dementia floor, there's always some kind of an odor permeating, and you better not sit down until you see where you're sitting and make sure there's some plastic or something, because you don't know who sat there before. And that's just the way it is. And many people think the only way to care for your loved one is to put them in a care facility, an extended care facility, or a traditional nursing home. And they think that might be the best way. But there's alternatives that you have to be aware of. Being at home, being in a community home, or being in assisted living. And we're going to discuss all that. It's also very important that you realize that the older we get, we're living longer. And if you're in your mid-80s, the chances are better than 50, maybe as high as 70%. You're going to need some extended care, either in a nursing home or at home with assistance before you die. If you're in your 60s, you're probably in a 40 to 45% chance of needing something. And again, as I said, under disability income, don't assume that the only people that need it are the elderly being testing. Okay, I'm going to redo this. Welcome back to long-term care planning, chapter number 8. I don't know if the whole first piece recorded, so I'm going to start at the beginning. Long-term care is a very important part of people's financial plans and financial security, especially for the baby boomers, because the baby boomers have been the sandwich generation. We have our children we're trying to take care of, launch, and get off to a good life. We're trying to take care of ourselves and get to retirement, and in many cases, our parents and grandparents and other relatives are living longer, and we're responsible for them. And by responsibility, I don't mean that we're always responsible just monetarily. Time is important, having to take relatives and care for them, get them to nursing, doctor's appointments, therapy appointments, get their prescriptions taken care of. All of this takes time. In many situations, it's the female in the marriage taking care of the loved ones, and in many situations, they lose the ability to work full-time or lose their career opportunities. In terms of long-term care planning, nobody wants to go to a nursing home. So most of it does start at home. Most of long-term care has to also include private pay, Has to include the insurance companies, which are responsible today for only about 8, maybe 10% of the people receiving care is paid by an insurance company. And Medicare and Medicaid account for probably 70% of what's being paid, and they have all kinds of restrictions. Medicare and Medicaid will cover skilled nursing facilities, but that's not where people want to be, and if you don't believe me, just go visit some, and you'll always walk away depressed. Even at the best places that charge $300 to $400 a day, you're not going to be happy. The policies will cover, if you get a good plan, it's going to cover skilled nursing facilities, home health care, adult daycare, in-home care, assisted living, hospice care, some combinations, and will provide respite care. Respite care is very important because that's going to cover the person who's the primary caregiver so they can get a break. They don't wear themselves out. They may need to be able to take off a couple days to go and have their hair cut, go to the dentist, go to their own doctor. They may need a vacation so that they can keep their family together. And long-term care insurance is designed not for the medical care, but for all the other stuff that's involved. And the costs are very large. At home or in a nursing home, it doesn't matter. It says here that in 2006, the average cost was $62,000 for a private room. I mean, $62,000 for a skilled care, semi-private, $70,000 for a private room. In the Chicago metropolitan area, the cost is probably in excess of $72,000 a year, which is $6,000 a month. In home care, it says $22.15 per hour, or about $46,000 a year for 40 hours. Well, that's in-home care, and most people that are getting in-home care need more than 40 hours of coverage. If you are in an assisted living facility, it could be $32,000 to $50,000 a year. And this cost is going up at somewhere, it says here, projected at 5 to 6%. I would say it's going up higher than that, faster than that. When you look at long-term care, you have to look at medical situations, you have to look at activities of daily living, you have to look at cognitive impairment, which would be Alzheimer's and dementia. You have to look at what's a medical necessity. The activities of daily living, as defined by the Kennedy-Katzenbaum bill in 1996, which is also called the HIPAA legislation. That law says we are going to standardize what is going to trigger long-term care benefits. We're going to standardize what will trigger long-term care benefits. And what do we mean by that? Prior to this law, some insurance companies said you need to be unable to do 5 of 10. You need to be unable to do 4 of 8. Well, now it says it's triggered if you cannot do 2 of any of these 6. Now let's define what these 6 are. It says eating. Can you feed yourself? It doesn't say you have to prepare your own meals. It says can you feed yourself? Toileting. Toileting is technically getting on and off the commode. Can you get on and off the commode? Transferring. When you get up in the morning, can you get out of bed? Can you get in and out of a chair? Doesn't care how long it takes you. If you think about these activities, this is what we do the first 20 to 30 minutes every day when you wake up now. Can you bathe yourself or take a shower or wash yourself, or do you need help? Are you able to dress yourself? Even if you have arthritis, can you use Velcro to dress yourself? Maintaining continence, that is, do you need a diaper? And understand that the law says under tax qualified plans, which is the Kennedy-Katzenbaum bill from 1996, if you're unable to do any 2 of these 6, you're eligible for care under long-term care plans. Cognitive impairment is an automatic trigger. That's either Alzheimer's, dementia, some combination. And then it says medical necessity bases eligibility on the client's need for benefits as a result of illness, chronic conditions that require medical necessity. Medical necessity even means if you can't give yourself your own pills, that's medical necessity. Under the 1996 law, if the plan is qualified, and most plans today are, that's where they have the 2 of 6 activities. The benefits are received income tax free. But what I'm also going to tell you is The IRS and the Department of Treasury have never determined or set up any guidelines for plans that aren't called tax qualified. So even though there is a medical necessity, you trigger 2 of the 6 activities of daily living, then you don't have to worry about paying income tax. This slide is a little bit incorrect now because claim medical expenses that exceed the adjusted gross income is now 10%, not 7.5%. I've already discussed tax qualified plans. Most plans today are. The risk triggers, well, the following risk triggers should be considered. Are you diabetic? Are you a type 1 diabetic or are you type 2? Are you taking insulin? How much insulin are you taking and for how long? Most type 1 diabetics will not qualify for long-term care insurance policies. Is there a family history of cancer, coronary disease, Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's? Are you in a high-risk activity or lifestyle? Do you use a lot of tobacco? Do you bungee jump? Are you into recreational drugs? What is your occupation? All of these risk factors will determine not only for long-term care, but also for long-term disability. Insurance companies are going to try not to insure people that are automatically going to need the benefit. If you've already had a stroke and using a walker or using a cane, you're probably not going to qualify. If you're over a certain age, and most companies have now cut back where they're not going to issue policies maybe past the age of 75, or it used to be 85. There are less companies offering policies than used to. Years ago, the biggest policy underwriters was John Hancock, Metropolitan Life, and Genworth, or GE Capital. And all of those 3 said, we'll never raise premiums on in-force business. All 3 have had to raise premiums on in-force business. Metropolitan Life no longer writes new business at all. John Hancock has restricted what they're doing, as has Genworth. You used to be able to buy a lifetime benefit. Now most companies, if they're issuing it, don't issue more than an 8-year benefit, and it costs more than the lifetime benefit used to cost. Be aware that you have to pay attention of what the older policies have, because some of the older policies may only provide for skilled nursing care. It says that if you have a net worth between $250 and $1.5 million, you may not need it. Well, $250 today isn't a big net worth, especially if it's $70,000 a year to be there. So I'm not sure that's a valid number any longer. So I look at long-term care coverage on a case-by-case basis. Purchasing Rule 2, it says if your net worth is over 1.5, maybe you'll self-insure. I just had someone whose net worth is $3 million who insisted on buying long-term care so that they leave their net worth to the next generation. They don't want to tie it up paying for these kind of bills. Some of these states have come up with partnership plans to help people protect their assets, which says if you have an insurance plan after 2 years or 3 years, then the state will make sure that you don't have to eat up all your assets to qualify for Medicaid. Some states have not enacted that. Illinois says they have a plan, but quite frankly, they never funded it or put it together. Also be aware of the fact you want a plan that's flexible. You want home health care. You want assisted living. You want skilled care. And you want to make sure that you understand the waiting periods and the qualification periods for Medicare and Medicaid. It says the first factor is the amount of coverage. What is where you're going to live? What is the amount of coverage the average nursing home requires? If it's $200 a day, you might want to, and you can't afford it, maybe you're going to try to get a benefit for $150 and cover part of the benefit. Maybe if you're retiring to an area where it's only costing $150 a day, that's what you're going to get. Are you going to have a plan that provides 2 years of coverage, 3 years, 5 years? I can't tell you how much coverage you need. The longer the coverage, the more expensive the plan. The longer the waiting period or elimination period, the less expensive the plan. But the average length of time people are in a nursing home today, depending on whose study you want to believe, is anywhere between 39 and 52 months. So you want to get a 3-year plan, you want to get a 4-year or 5-year plan. That's somewhere you have to make that decision. The next question you have to ask, how much coverage? Well, you probably want coverage that's going to at least be at the average of the area you're going to retire to. How long should you have the plan? The elimination period. I don't recommend longer than a 90-day elimination period, because otherwise you may never have coverage. In many cases, I prefer people to have a lesser elimination period if they can afford it. Do I provide for inflation protection? Absolutely, I try to provide for inflation protection. Whether it's simple or compounded, they need some because the cost is going up more and more. There are some companies that say buy a 90-day elimination period, and if you use our programs and our care coordinators and you start coverage at home, we waive the waiting period. That's an important thing. The waiting period is the elimination period. How many days before benefits start? Medicare will cover skilled nursing care only, skilled nursing care after a 3-day hospitalization. And more, the Medicare is trying to figure out a way not to pay or let you be in the hospital for 3 days. So Medicaid care says if you're in the hospital for 3 nights and you go to a nursing home within 30 days, a skilled nursing home that's medically necessary, they're going to pay under Medicare for up to 100 days. Medicaid, it's public aid, is for the indigent. That means you have no assets. You might have $2,000 in cash, a wedding ring, you might have your house, but basically you have no other assets, you're indigent, and that's public aid. And then the state will determine where you're going to go. And people trying to hide assets, the state can come after their assets when they pass away. I've already mentioned about the partnership plans. I don't think you can get a test question on it. It started in Connecticut, it's in California, it's in several other states. But what it's saying is, if your plan provides certain minimum benefits for, I think it's 3 years or 4 years, after you've used up those benefits, we will let you be eligible for Medicaid without eating up all your assets because you've taken care of a lot of yourself. Today, in addition to traditional policies, there's also hybrid annuities and life insurance contracts that you might want to consider. That was our summary of long-term care planning. Thank you very much for participating, and have a good day. See you soon.